Trump wants to end birthright citizenship, and all the worst people you know are saying, why is this so controversial? Other countries have done it. I don't want to talk about it, and I'll tell you why at the end, but I guess we're talking about it. Birthright citizenship is something that's very much cemented into the U.S. Constitution. In fact, it's in the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. That is not the case in other countries. In other countries, sure, this is a policy issue, but in the U.S., it's something that is just firmly baked into the U.S. Constitution and the identity of the U.S. You see, this was put into place after the Civil War to make sure that formerly enslaved people and their children were recognized as full citizens. Now, this isn't something that'll just go away on its own. It's either going to have to be a constitutional amendment or a reinterpretation by the Supreme Court. Now, as for a constitutional amendment, possible, highly unlikely. So what's the other option? Just reinterpretation or basically gaslighting by the Supreme Court. Now, unfortunately, this is very much a possibility because we do have a very conservative Supreme Court. Not only that, the Supreme Court has also been trying to get us used to a bunch of flimsy reasoning to try to back up their decisions. Like they will cite ancient Egyptian codes or just a bunch of convoluted stuff that shouldn't even apply, has no place in jurisprudence, just to try to sell the public on this decision, probably knowing that most people won't read it. But also, it's just the craziest reasoning. And they've been doing this more and more consistently. So yes, reinterpretation by the Supreme Court, aka legal gaslighting, very much a possibility. Now, why don't I want to talk about this stuff? Well, unfortunately, it plays into the Republican playbook of turning every single issue into a culture war issue, and I'm tired of it. Like, aren't you tired of this? Isn't it just crystal clear at this point that if everything is a culture war issue and something to yell about and get people's attention and rile them up, then that way the Republicans don't have to do anything about healthcare, the economy, education, anything that actually impacts and improves people's lives. Like, is this really the number one issue that all of America is facing right now? Birthright citizenship? That's the number one issue? No, not even close. Instead, they want you to go look over there like, oh no, immigrants, trans people, other marginalized groups. So that way they can just keep siphoning the money from the U.S. And that's going to be done by what? The richest cabinet in U.S. history? Like, it's made up of billionaires. It's ridiculous. And here we are, like, fighting over it. Oh, and you want to know the scariest part? If this dude, who I've been covering the entire time, you're welcome, calls into question whether a person is a U.S. citizen or not, then that leaves them vulnerable and subject to being put in a prison or a detention center. Basically, it's all yet another scare tactic and authoritarian move to try to bully and harass the American public and its citizens into submission.